By the second year, the coffee shop stopped feeling temporary. That was how I measured success, not profit, not reviews, just the moment I stopped expecting everything to collapse overnight. The place still carried evidence of the early months, if you looked closely enough. Chairs bought from restaurant auctions, shelves I stained myself after closing, a pastry case with a stubborn crack near the corner I never quite fixed. People called it cozy. Mostly it was patched together carefully. My parents had never seen it before. Not when I signed the lease, not during the months I worked 6 o'clock in the morning until midnight because I couldn't afford staff. Not when the espresso machine flooded half the counter during winter. For 4 years, they acted like I'd quietly disappeared. No dramatic disowning, nothing cinematic, just unanswered messages. Birthdays forgotten a little too consistently, family updates relayed through cousins instead of directly to me. At some point, silence becomes its own decision. Then one Thursday afternoon, they walked through my front door smiling like proud investors. My mother waved at customers. "This is our daughter's place," she announced to nobody who asked. My father laughed loudly near the register like he belonged there. A few customers smiled politely at me, assuming this was wholesome somehow. That part honestly unsettled me more than seeing my parents. I stood behind the counter holding a milk pitcher too tightly. My father eventually sat down at the corner table and motioned for me to join them. When I did, he slid a folder across the table. "I talked to someone about helping structure the business properly," he said. Inside was a contract transferring 15% ownership. I stared at it without touching the pages. My mother took a sip of coffee like this was all perfectly reasonable. "You should actually appreciate this," she said. Family involvement gives businesses stability. I almost laughed at the word family. Then my father leaned forward slightly. "Sign it," he said quietly. "Or I call your landlord tonight." There it was. Not concern. Not reconciliation. Leverage. And the frustrating thing was it worked for a second because the lease terrified me. The cafe barely survived its first year. Rent increases kept me awake at night more often than failure itself. My parents knew enough about me to understand where fear lived. But something about the way he said it felt old. Like he assumed I was still 22 and cornered at their kitchen table asking permission to exist. I looked at him for a long moment. Then I picked up my phone. "Sure," I said calmly. "Let's call him." My mother's expression shifted first. Not panic. Just uncertainty. I put the call on speaker. My landlord answered on the second ring. Distracted and friendly. "Hey Claire, everything okay?" "Sorry," I said. "Quick question. My dad says if I don't sign over part of the business tonight you're planning to evict me." Silence. Then what? The entire table went still. My father opened his mouth slightly, but said nothing. The landlord sounded genuinely confused now. "Who told you I'd evict her?" Nobody answered. Then his tone changed. Not aggressive. Just suddenly careful. "Wait. Are these the same people who contacted me last month asking questions about ownership?" My stomach dropped. My mother looked away first. The cafe noise around us suddenly felt very far away. Cup steaming, grinder running, somebody laughing near the window, normal life continuing while something private finally became visible. I told them, the landlord continued, that the lease is solely yours, and I'm not discussing your business with anyone else. A long pause followed, then professionally and unmistakably, "And Claire, nobody is removing you from that property. If anyone keeps interfering, I'd prefer communication goes through attorneys." That was the moment everything changed, not loudly, quietly, like air leaving something inflated. My father leaned back in his chair and folded the contract without looking at me. My mother suddenly started talking about misunderstandings, intentions, concern. The words blurred together after a while because the important part had already happened. Someone outside the family had treated me like the legitimate owner without hesitation. No permission required. Eventually, they stood to leave. Neither apologized. I didn't ask them to. After closing, I wiped down tables slower than usual while rain pressed softly against the windows. One of my regulars lingered near the counter before heading out. Your parents, he asked gently. I looked toward the door they'd walked through earlier, then back at the quiet cafe. Something like that, I said. And for the first time in years, the answer felt honest.